Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Greg Fisher. I'm with Impact Martial Arts, and today I'm going to be talking with Grandmaster Brumley, who's one of our high ranks in the UTA. Master Brumley, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, sir.
Excellent, sir. Well, thank you for joining us today. And I just wanted to, because you've been in martial arts. How long have you been in martial arts? How long have you been
Started in
training?
1974, so a little while.
That's been some time. That's been some time. I was just born in '79, so that's
Don't
you're a
remind.
bit senior to me, I think. So you've seen some stuff.
Yeah,
So over that time, 'cause that's what is that, 46
40,
years?
sir.
That's a good amount of time. Has martial arts changed any over that time, sir?
Well, yes, it has, and the ability for us to teach what we need to teach and get more in depth into the human psyche, we'll call it, have an opportunity to develop some people even better than what we anticipated that could happen, has started happening over the last couple of years. And so, would you like me to go into that? Would you like me to kind of tell you what has happened in the past?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go for it, sir.
Well, when I first started, I mean, this is pre having sparring gear stuff. I mean, this is a long, long time ago. And when we sparred, a lot of us, took class. A lot of us called this blood and guts karate. I mean, this was pretty hardcore, and my instructor didn't even let people start until they were 18 years old. So there was no children in the program. Well, as we developed and came up to the understanding that this could help people even more because of how it helped us, we grasped the opportunity to start working with people that were younger. For instance, when we started at 18, I remember when we started saying, maybe we should start considering taking people around 12 or 13 or 14. And there's a lot of people saying, oh no, they can't learn this. There's no way they can learn this. At 12 or 13, what are we going to teach them? And it wasn't about the mental toughness that we could help them develop. We were concerned about their safety, because some of the stuff prior to sparring gear was pretty rough. I mean, I saw people lose teeth and get hurt really bad. But we tried to have some level of control with our techniques and stuff. But we're talking about no mouthpiece, no groin protectors, no hand pads, no feet pads, no headgear, nothing. So we were kind of vulnerable at that time. So as we continue to grow in the martial arts, and we started understanding the true value didn't come from just the physical aspect. It came from the mental workup. Now, if you look back into how Taekwondo was developed, it was a martial arts for the military. I mean, it was a great martial art for people in the military to gain discipline. That's what we think about a lot when we think about these soldiers. They're very disciplined people. Well, if we're trying to get somebody to be disciplined, we don't have to wait until they're 18 and join the Army and put them through basic training. We can start them when they're 4 years old. I mean, Mr. Fisher, how old is your youngest student?
You know what, sir? I've had students start as young as my daughter actually started when she was 2.5.
Wow.
Most of them are 3, 4. I started when I was 12.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. So you were in that older age group, but probably not older age group of people that when, I had no idea that was going to happen. Excuse me.
That you me.
Wow. Okay. Excuse me. Pardon me. Okay. Business fault calls coming in.
Modern technology.
Modern technology. So when you started, there was probably a lot of other people around that age group, 12 years old, 11, 12, 13, that started at about that time. Now, you started your daughter at 2.5. So see, we had to have a completely different mindset, because I'm going to train a 12-year-old completely differently than what I can do with a 2.5-year-old. So we have this understanding of what can they learn and what should they learn. Well, we call them the little warriors. What do you call your little bitty guys?
We have our little dragons class.
A little dragons class.
Yeah,
So
they spit a little fire.
yeah, they're fun, and they're in that developmental stage of what we need to do with these kids so they can learn how to socialize. so they can learn how to go into society and learn how to share. They need to have conflict resolution. They need to know how, if somebody takes a toy away from them, to get it back if they need it, or they have to start deciding, do I really need it right now? And opposed to, we've got a fight on our hands. So martial arts teaches all these other small things to these younger kids, but they're not small to them. They may be small to us because me and you, Mr. Fisher, you took my toy away from me. Me and you would talk about it, and more than likely come up with the understanding of, I might need that back someday. But on the other hand, a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old, they don't have that mentality, because especially the ones that are only one child in the household, because they never have to share. So that conflict resolution thing that we teach, that's invaluable to parents. I see it all the time. Another thing, attention. They need to learn how to pay attention and stand on the mark. They need to learn how to stand on the mark for a certain few seconds before we do a movement. I think in that age group, it's harder to stand still than it is to move. Now, we can get them to move, but get them to move and do what you want them to do sometimes is different, especially if you want them to do a certain move and they may have had a bunch of sugar before. So they're just spinning. So now what we're trying to work with them on is certain aspects of control. So, and the control of their body, but we got to get the control of the mind first. Now, you mentioned my book earlier, Live Your Potential. One of the things that I do in the Taekwondo University is I have principles that we teach throughout the different ranks. And one of the principles, and there's several, there's 16 principles in the book. There's 9 that we really deep delve into within the Taekwondo school. And not only just we delve into it, we memorize it, we understand it, and then we implement it. Because if you memorize and understand something, it's not really going to benefit you until we start implementing into our life. That implementation of our life changes. So, for instance, when I was coming up through as a teenager, as a child, my parents, and they're good people, man. My father's 90 years old now, still kicking. He's doing a great job. My mother's 84, and I'm glad to still have him in my life. We grew up in a small town in Arkansas, and there's nothing wrong with that town, but it was probably typical for a lot of other small towns in America. And that would be where you would hear some things like, I don't know, I forgot, and I can't remember. And a lot of people would say that in my household. I never thought anything differently. I just thought, well, that's, if you can't remember, you forgot something, that's what you say. So go to college. First day in psychology class, the instructor comes to us and he says, okay, here's the deal. There's this subconscious mind back here. It's like this huge tank that we're keeping every bit of the information. Then you've got this conscious mind up front, and that conscious mind says that's good information or that's bad information. It doesn't eliminate the information. It just decides whether it's good information or whether it's bad information. It's maybe like, oh, it's a hot stove. You don't want to touch that, so remember that, okay? Or good information, yeah, you want to conduct yourself like this. Well, the psychologist said this: your subconscious mind has never forgotten anything. Now, let's think about this. If my subconscious mind has never forgotten anything, then why would we ever say, I forgot, I can't remember, I don't know, I can't recall that information? Well, see, the conscious mind in the front, that's I'll call it the filter. That filter, when we first start talking about that getting the information, if we're telling the subconscious or telling the conscious mind, don't go get that information. Like I say, I forgot that name. Well, what it's really saying is don't go get that information. Well, the conscious mind obeys, and the subconscious mind doesn't have to do anything because there's no reason to get that information. But what would happen if we started training our brain differently? What if we, instead of saying, I don't know, I can't remember, I forgot, what if we started saying, that's coming to me now? Or, oh yeah, that information, yeah, it's available to me. I'll have that in just a second. Now, if I say that outwardly, it sounds okay. Inwardly, I'm going to say, go get that information. Now, Master Fisher, listen to this. I'm not going to say that if me and you were standing around and you say, do you remember your first grade teacher's name? And I look at you and say, go get that information. You're going to think I'm a nutcase, man. You're going to think that.
Maybe that might happen, yeah.
Right. So So internally, I'm telling my conscious brain, the subconscious brain, what to go and receive. Now, that's the way we need to learn how to control our brain. We need to tell our brain what to do and how to do that. And we don't need to tell it to not go get that information by saying, I forgot, I don't remember, I don't know. Because that's just saying, don't go get that information. See, so my parents, when they said that, and a lot of the friends, when they say that, as a child, they weren't trying harm. They weren't trying to bring harm on me. That was just something that we said. And I'm sure you probably had that kind of conversations in your house as well.
All the time. All the time.
Sure. Well, so now we have children in our program that are literally learning, 4 and 5-year-olds, that are literally learning how to talk to their brain. I don't want to wait until they're 12 or 15 or 25 years old before they start learning how to talk to their brain, because now we build bad habits. So if I can get a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old to start talking to their brain in a positive way to retrieve information, that child has become smarter. Were they already smart? Sure, because the information was there. To retrieve it makes you smarter. So there's one of the things in the Live Your Potential program that we do. And another thing is our attitude principle. Man, this is the attitude principle is so valuable. Attitude principles is this. I'm going to do 2 things. One is I'm going to have a positive attitude, and second, I'm going to look for the best in all things. That's hard to do. It's really hard to do if you watch the news a lot, because in your head,
especially right now,
right? Especially in the pandemic era, if you get in your head, the world's falling apart, and we're all gonna crash and die. It's not a good thing. But there's still a lot of positives out there. I was talking to a couple of my sons the other day. They have small children, and I said, "Well, what do you think?" And they said, it's pretty tough. Our companies are laying people off. We haven't gotten laid off, but we're having to cut back in case that ever happens. And I said, "Well, how's the kids?" They said, "They're having a great time." Right. So there's this whole different twist over here. So to teach children to have a great attitude is pretty easy, but to teach them how to keep a great attitude through adulthood is kind of difficult. So see, there's another thing we've got to learn in an early stage to have a positive attitude and look for the best in all things. If we look for the bad in all things, we'll find it.
Every time.
Every time. If we look for the good in all things, we'll also find that. So we just have to decide, what do I want? What do I want to find? It's just like a search, man. This is like a fun little game of find the treasure. And that's our life. We have to go out and find it, but we have to decide, am I going to let the media and the world decide my attitude, or am I going to decide that? So if I get to decide my attitude, I kind of free myself up. I'm more of an independent person now. And my father used to tell you know how dumb a cow is? Do you have any idea how dumb a cow is?
I have no idea how dumb a cow is.
Okay. My grandfather had a pasture, and he would rent it to a guy that lived across the street. Okay. And Mr. Davis. And Mr. Davis would bring his cows over when my grandfather's pasture was lush and green. So they'd eat the grass there. And then when they'd eat it down, they'd send them back over to the other side. Well, imagine this big property, and there's a barn up here, and then way down here is the pond, and the cows would eat the hay, and then they graze, and they finally make it down to the pond so they could drink, and that's kind of what they would do. Well, this used to be 2 properties, and we had a fence that ran all the way across. Well, eventually, we took half the fence out so they could reach both parts of the property. But we left half the fence up. It was we just did. It wasn't that we needed to leave it there. We just didn't need to move it. So several years later, my dad said, "Hey, let's go move that fence. Let's go take that fence down, the rest of it." I said, "Okay." He said, "You don't know how dumb a cow is?" I said, "Well, pretty dumb, I guess." I said, "But they kind of got it made." I said, "So," he said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Well, somebody's feeding them all day, and somebody's giving them water, and they're not really having to want for anything. They're having to work for anything." And he said, "Yeah, you're right. Watch this." So we took the fence down. Now, before, there was a trail. One cow starts walking, the other ones walk, and there's a trail where the cows walk. And they'd walk all the way down to the end of the fence, and they'd walk all the way back, and they go to the pond. We took the fence down. Mr. Fisher, guess what they kept doing? I know. Dumb cows. So they can walk like right across now. Instead of they'd walk like 100 yards and turn around and walk 100 because that was the path. That's how dumb they are. Okay, so we would watch this and laugh about it. He said, let me tell you what's happening. Right on the other side of that fence someplace, there's a fox. He said, be the fox. He said, let me tell you about the fox. The fox has to hunt for its food every day. That fox has to be independent. That fox has to make his own way. He said, but let me also tell you what's going to happen with this cow. This cow thinks that fox over there is having a tough life because somebody's feeding the cow. Somebody's watering the cow. Somebody's giving this cow everything it needs. And that fox is having to work every day for what it gets. Okay. Sometimes that fox goes hungry. He said, but son, let me tell you what's going to happen. It's a big truck that's going to pull up in front of this barn. And those cows are going to march on that truck. And he said, it ain't going to be a field trip. It's going to be the last trip. And he said, and there's the fox. And he's not going on the field trip. And he's not going on the last trip because he outsmarted those cows. So, we have to create that independence for people. We got to help them make their own way. We got to help them, teach them. As martial art instructors, we're all very independent anyway. I mean, you own your own business, sir. I applaud everybody that owns their own business because you got a lot of guts. You really have a lot of courage to be able to go out and sign a lease and pay the utilities and all the down payments and put your business in and get the permits for your business and put your business in line and work really, really hard before you finally get that first check. Yeah. And sometimes that check is a lot less than somebody you've just gone to work for. So
that is true.
Yeah. So you're already this independent person that you're going to make it on your own. You're the fox.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah. So is there something in that we need to teach people? Yeah, we don't need to teach everybody to own their own business. I don't know that it's okay. We know how to do it. We know how to teach them that. But I don't know that that's really what we need to teach them. I think we need to teach them how to be sly and as smart as a fox. And
right.
Yeah, and within that, one is we have to guard our mind. I mean, literally, we got to teach our children to guard their mind. I'm not talking about children, my own personal children. Yes, I am, but I'm talking about my Taekwondo students as well. And some of them are 40 years old now, and I started them at 10, okay, and 12, and they're coming back in my life. And as far as I'm concerned, they're still my children because they're, I knew them when they were younger, and now they're adults, and they're coming back and they're saying, that's the best 5, 6, 7 years out of my life. And I'm going to come back and get more of it. I'm sure you're starting to see some of that as well.
I'm starting to have some of my kids bring their kids in.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah. That's so how long have you been open?
I've been open here in Austin for, let's see, I bought the school in 2004. So it's been 16 years here in Austin.
16.
And I've been teaching and owning schools every day for the last 22 years. 22
okay,
years.
Where were you before Austin?
I was in Louisiana for a while. I was in Louisiana and then I was in Arkansas for a little bit. But
now, who was your instructor when you were in Louisiana?
My instructor was Master John Drew.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was. I teach a lot of the things that he taught, but in a different way. I mean, I try and teach the same things that you're talking about. Teaching about how to teach the kids better. I mean, we've gotten better at teaching the children and teaching everybody. It's gone so far beyond the physical, so far beyond the kick and punch.
It goes far beyond because we're not just an instructor. That's the person that gives information. We become the mentor. And I think that's a bigger title for us. I think it's somebody that can help guide them. I've had instructors that were terrible at getting out information because I didn't think they cared about me. I love what Zig Ziglar says. He said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So these instructors, they needed to know that. And they needed to, some of these like professors and stuff, I was like, this guy don't care about me. This guy don't, I had a second year of Spanish. First year Spanish, it was tough. Second year Spanish, oh man, it was really hard because the instructor only spoke Spanish. The first year, it was an English lady that knew Spanish. The second year, it was a Spanish guy that knew a little bit of English. And he refused to speak English. He said, it's Spanish class. So I didn't think he liked me. In fact, I thought he hated my guts. And I was failing school, and I was doing miserably in there. I was passing all my other classes, and I was really working hard. But I was failing in this class miserably, because I kept thinking, he don't like me. He's not helping me. He's not there for me. Well, one cold day, we went to class, and he walked in. He would just start writing on the board. He wouldn't look at anybody or talk to anybody. He would start writing. And so he turned around, and I remembered a couple of words that he was talking about the weather. And I said, yeah, I'm wearing my Largo ones. Well, Largo is long and ones is John. So I'm wearing my long johns. And he thought that was hilarious. And he invited me to come to his office afterwards. And he said, I had no idea you were this funny. And now he's talking to me in English. I can understand him. He said, I had no idea you were this funny. He said, that was one of the funniest things he ever said. He said, but you're failing my class. I said, I know. What do I need to do? And he literally took me under his guidance. And I would come spend some time with him. And there was another guy in the class that he said, hey, you already knew the Spanish language. I need you to help this young man. So me and that guy became friends, and the instructor helped me out, and I ended up acing the class. Well, what changed? Well, my humor, my Largo One humor. I mean, what really changed? It was, I realize now this guy cares about me. And whatever that was, it changed me and the outlook that I had on him. And now I was able to learn from him. For whatever reason, I was able to pick up the information in the classes, along with his help and along with the tutor. But that molded me. That changed me. I thought, wow, well, this is fantastic in the way I mentor students now. Because see, he didn't become just an instructor. He became a mentor. Absolutely. See, to teach and educate are two different things. To teach something is give somebody information, but to educate is to draw it back out. It's kind of like our testings. You know, you give information. Here's the way to make a front stance. Here's the way to make a good power in your side kick. Here's the way you do these things. But I have to test you to see what you have inside. So I have to draw that out. Educate means to draw out. So I have to say, okay, Jimmy, let me see your pattern. You ready? Begin. And I can now decide what I taught you. Okay, that's the educate. So what the educators do? They put in, they draw out. Mentors take it to that next level, though. And I know you've mentored a lot of people in your area for over the many years, and I've heard a lot of good things about you from your students. When you mentor, you take it to that next level, because the Spanish teacher is only going to teach me Spanish, but your Taekwondo instructor teach you about life, man. I mean, I know you do. I mean, it's not just about, it's about attitude, and it's about how people think, and it's about being courageous. You know, all those things that you have instilled. So you got lessons.
Yes.
And, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Overcoming obstacles are huge. I mean, that's a big thing.
Yeah. You know, I think the majority of people self-sabotage their life. I think they self-sabotage their success. And I think they do that with just, not with their efforts. I think they do it with their thoughts. See, I think you have to have a thought first. And thoughts are things, but you have to put them into action. Thoughts aren't things until you put them into action. They're just thoughts. But as soon as you put it into action and you try something, then you can decide how close or far you are from it, from being excellent with whatever you try. But if you're saying in your head, I'll never be good at that, you'll be right. Therefore, you probably never have any action towards it. See, you're that action guy. You can help people with that. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see that all the time. You know, it's like if you think you're going to be able to do something, or you think you can't, you're probably going to prove yourself right.
Like board breaking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Board breaking is such a mental thing. It's so little with the physical. You know, there's little technical things you got to have and you got to hit it hard, but it's all about fear. It's
It
all
is.
about overcoming fear.
Yeah,
And that's what it is. So yeah, that's huge.
I think confidence and courage are like closely related. You know, if you confidently prepare for board breaking, then you can courageously step up and break the boards. But if you don't confidently prepare, because every time you hit the bag or the pad, and if every time you hit it, you're saying to yourself, oh, I'll never break this. You're right. You'll never break it.
Absolutely.
So you're not confidently preparing. So there's a confidence and courageous are one of the principles that we have in the Live Your Potential program. And I see it all the time, man. I mean, I see someone looking at the bag or the pad or something, and they hit it, and you can always see based on how hard they hit it or how much commitment they had. You saw the fear before, like you said, it's a fear-based thing. Well, if you don't confidently hit that pad, and you don't in a positive way say things to yourself that would say, oh yeah, that would break, and that's what I have what it takes to break. Now, if you're hitting it weak and you're saying to yourself, I have what it takes to break, you're just lying to yourself. I'm not talking about lying. We gotta be truthful to who we are.
Right.
If you're not true to who you are, you got another problem. So that's a whole new venue of conversation. But
right.
if you hit that pad hard, and you say to yourself, that would break. You say to yourself, yeah, I can break these boards. And you say to yourself, I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to break this board with a sidekick because I have what it takes. And you hit that pad thousands of times. And you never really hit a pad. You hit through the pad because you never really want to hit a board. You want to hit through the board, right? I mean, that's where it's all at. I remember your last testing, you're just blasting through it. And that was fun to watch, right? Yeah.
It was fun to do.
Yeah. Okay. When does board breaking fun?
When you break the boards.
That's right. The fear happens before the board break. If you can't break your boards, the people that can't break boards, they hit them a couple of times, they don't break them, they hate board breaking. But after you show them how to break them, and they practice and practice, and they get their head right up around it, and they confidently practice, and they courageously step up to the board and it breaks, what do they want to do immediately after that?
They want to do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's fun. Now it's fun. The fear thing is over. The fun is now.
Right.
Several years ago, Julie and I were on our anniversary. We wanted to go up to Niagara Falls. And so we did. And you go into this building first, and they give you all the history and stuff. And then you go out these big glass windows and you walk on probably 30 foot to the rail and you see the falls. And so we looked at all the history stuff and got our little tickets, and we're walking out. And Julie walks right up to the rail. And right after I got out of the window, I stopped. And she turned around and looked back at me, and she said, come on. I said, I'm good. I can hear it from here. I can see part of it from here. She goes, no, you got to see the whole thing. Come here. No, I'm good. And it bothered me. I didn't realize how fearful I was of heights. I couldn't do it. And I thought, oh, you know what? Me as a mentor, I have to eliminate my fear of heights, and so I can teach my students how to not have fear of certain things, not just heights, but fear. Right. So I went back to my school and I started talking to my instructors and students and black belts and stuff. And I said, you know what I'm gonna go do a skydive. Oh, that's crazy. I'm fearful of heights. I'm gonna do a skydive. We booked it on the 13th day of the month. There was 13 black belts, and I was the 13th one to jump. So if you have a fear,
make sure they go.
If you have a problem with 13, you would have never been in my shoes. Yeah. And right after I did it, guess what I wanted to do? Do it again. Yeah, and I don't have a fear of heights anymore. So I tell that story because it's not about the problems that we have, it's the things we're willing to do about it.
Absolutely.
So if I wasn't willing to take that jump, I'd still be fearful of heights.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Brings up a funny story. When you talk
Let's hear
about
it.
coming up to the rail at Niagara Falls, were you there when Grandmaster Whitlow decided to throw a sidekick on top of that railing and take a picture with it? And he fell off. He fell off the other side and just grabbed on the ground on the other side.
No.
And so overcoming fear, but with reality.
Well, we're talking about Grandmaster Whitlow, who has thrown a million kicks in beautiful places all around the world, and there's one more place,
Yeah. Right.
I'm glad he's still with us.
Me too. That was a while back. That was probably 2002
Yeah.
or so.
Oh yeah, that was before he was Grandmaster Whitlow.
That was a while back.
We would have never known him to be Grandmaster Whitlow if that
Right.
had come wrong. That's
Absolutely.
crazy. I'll have to rib him about that.
Well, sir, what's the biggest transformation you've ever seen in one of your students?
Oh my gosh.
So many of them, right?
I taught a kid who had a brittle bone disease. He came in one day and he said, "I'd like to start Taekwondo." And his dad said, "No, you can't." Well, his brother's already taken. That's why he came in all the time. And so he looked at me and he said, "Can I take Taekwondo?" I said, "Sure." And his dad said, "No, he can't." I said, "Well, sure he can. We'll figure it out." And so we figured it out, and he went all the way to black belt. And I got in trouble a couple of times. He would literally hop out of his wheelchair and jump on the floor and do exercises and stuff. I taught him how to spar using his wheelchair, and we would spar him in his chair. Sometimes we'd use a short stick and put pads on it. And he would have an opportunity to punch and stuff. And whenever we do patterns, whenever we'd he would spin his chair around and do the movements. I mean, it was pretty amazing. One girl I think that taught us the most was a girl named Amanda Farmer. She's completely deaf, never heard a word we said. And sometimes the instructors go out and they say, "All right, now I want everybody to throw a really strong double knife and block." But that's what they do. They do this kind of weak movement. And everybody would usually do what you say. But Amanda never heard anything you said. So if every time I would see her doing a movement like this, I never would go to her because I knew that's what the instructor had done. And I said, "Hey, instructor, Mr. Wiggins or whoever it might be, watch Amanda. That's what you did. I didn't have to see what you did. I know what you did. She's only mocking you." And then so she probably taught us more than we taught her. But it was pretty amazing getting somebody completely deaf to black belt.
Yeah, isn't that pretty cool how we learn almost as much as the students do
or more.
Them?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It molds us to understand that Taekwondo can be done by anyone as long as the instructor has a mind open enough to go, "Yeah, I've seen this before," or I've tackled this kind of obstacle before, or "I think I can handle this type of challenge."
Right.
So, I mean, there's so many. I had to tell my wife about 4 or 5 times that she no changed at turtle testings. That was kind of you want to talk about.
That was fun.
That was a long ride home.
Yeah.
But she just always took it like a champ and said, "Yeah, you're right. And then let's just get on with that." Even though nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news, And sometimes I'd start it with, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this. I'm not the only one that was at the judges' table. Don't shoot the messenger." So let me tell you what happened. This is the results. And so, there was several hundreds of students that I remember a young man I mentioned a while ago named Mr. Wiggins, Brody Wiggins. He was teaching my Little Warrior class. That's what he started off. He's just a teenager. And he one day he'd come out and they'd ran all over him and he'd be crying, "Oh, they hate me." Next time he'd come out, he'd all run all over them. And he said, "Oh, they hate me." They all cried. Either I'm crying or they're crying. And I kept telling him, I said, "You're going to get better." And he said, "No, I'm not." I said, "Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are." And he became one of our best instructors because of what he had learned. And then anytime that a new instructor would come around, I'd say, "Mr. Wiggins, come over here. Let's talk about this guy. He didn't think he can ever pick this up." Tell him some of the challenges. So sometimes when we share some of those war stories, that gives enough patience and confidence to the person who we're talking to stick with it and grow on.
Absolutely, because they tend to see us. It seems that they tend to see us as we've been like this. We're just we're that guy. We were just born to do this. And it's like, no, I started out,
struggled too, man.
Just like everybody else.
I struggled too. Yeah, everybody did. And I didn't have a lot of physical ability. I had to figure it out. Me too. And it took me a long, long time. I remember sitting down and doing the splits, and I thought, I'll never do the splits. And I realized, well, I don't like the splits. I don't like doing the splits because I'm not good at it. Well, the only way I'm going to get good at it is to keep practicing. So I kept practicing to the point that I could do the splits. Well, that's life. It's like that board break. Man, I hate breaking boards till I can. And now I love it. Oh, and I've been back to Niagara Falls a couple of times, all the way to the rail.
Yeah.
Now, I never stood on top of the rail and did a side kick. So let's clarify there.
Probably for the best.
Probably for the best.
It's a long way down.
It's a long way, yeah. I don't know if I can holler that long.
Yeah, right.
A long way down. Yeah. Yeah. And as far as other people that have impacted my life, when my own children were in class, and I'm sure you can testify to this too, I've seen people that had their own kids in class and they smother them, or they're mean to them. And I wanted to not give them any more attention than I gave the other students when they're in class. And I also wanted to be fair. I didn't want them to have anything they shouldn't deserve, but I didn't want them to have more than they deserved. So as far as lessons are concerned, and it's kids and teaching and stuff, my own children was probably, that taught me how not to have a favorite in the class. Now, to this day, let me tell you this, and you might want to use this one. To this day, I'll walk into a class and I'll say, I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I do. Let me tell you what my favorites are. You guys are. All Taekwondo students are my favorites. So, right.
That's a tough line to walk, isn't it? Being able to do that. And I've seen a lot of instructors where they don't walk that line with their own kids very well.
Yeah.
But I treat all of our kids, all of our students, just like my own kids anyway, when they're on the floor. So it was actually a pretty easy transition for me to do that.
And that's valuable. See, what you've learned there is so valuable, because everybody trusts you more now. See, what I want for my mentor is to be able to trust them. I want them to be able to trust that they're going to give me the right information. I want them to be able to trust that they're leading me in the right direction. If I can just get those two things, okay? So you as the mentor, they got to know that. And if they think that you're favoring your child, or you're just really mean to your kid, they don't trust you.
Right.
If they can't trust you, they don't know if you're guiding them in the right direction.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a great lesson, man. Yeah. What about you? Who has taught you the most?
Oh, you know what, sir? There are so many of these guys that have taught me so many things, between students and instructors. Grandmaster Wadley has been a great mentor. You have, we haven't talked that much, but every time we do, I always pick something up. Grandmaster McNeely was a great mentor for a long time. I learned so much of how I teach from him. Even outside of martial arts, just following along, not on a personal level, but Tony Robbins, anything, all of my pastors that I've had in churches, I've got a whole list of people. One of my favorite mentors, and really became like a brother to me, was Fong Pham.
Oh yeah.
Really, he was awesome. He was really just like 2 years ahead of me in training, but he was teaching a lot of classes. And, I still think about him every day.
Yeah, I miss him. He was such a genuine person.
He really was.
Yeah.
And that is what made him successful, was everybody who knew him was able to trust him right away, just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he was who he was.
You knew when you met him, that's who he was. He wasn't putting up a front. He wasn't trying to bamboozle you out of anything. You just knew that he was trustworthy and truthful, and that is who he is. Yeah,
that's who he was. And so he's been a giant influence in my life, and it's pretty important. So
yeah,
that's pretty good. And then, you know, my mom and my dad and my grandparents were huge in developing things like that. So I've had so many good people in my life. It's awesome.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Yeah, I have too. I think we both have kind of went along that path together, different cities and different towns, but with a lot of support behind us. There was some of the people, when I was coming up through the ranks, I was sharing with you this last night. Took me 8.5 years to get my black belt, and 4 different schools closed on me. I had to go back to white belt 4 different times. And about the 4th time that this happened, I come back to my parents and I told them what happened. I was, okay, I'm moving back from one town. I'm moving back to Arkadelphia. I'm going to go back to college there. And went to church one day, and this sweet little lady, her name was Bonnie Mae Mahaffey. Now, if your name is Bonnie Mae Mahaffey, you have to be a sweet little lady. She lived just a few houses from us, a little sweet church lady. So I saw her at church, and after church was over, she said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And I said, "Sure." So she pulled me aside and she said, "I heard your little karate place closed on you again." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "I know you've talked about being a black belt for a long time. And I guess it's just not in the stars for you to be a black belt." Now, you got to understand something, Mr. Fisher. This is a sweet little church lady. And she was not, the reason she was saying this is because she saw my hurt. She saw the pain. She saw me having to deal with another school close. She saw me having to struggle and find another martial arts school that I could go to and probably start off as white belt again and move up through the ranks again. And I smiled at her and gave her a hug, and I walked off, and this was my thought. I thought, she's right. The stars have nothing to do with me getting my black belt. It's all going to be on me. And at that day, I made a really powerful commitment. If I get my black belt, no need to ever quit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, sir, I mean, that's kind of great advice. And that leads into my next question, really. For a beginner student, someone who's just starting out, what is the best advice you could give? You know, I mean, you've got 46 years of training. What's the best advice you can give to a very beginner?
Learning information is going to be a struggle. Enjoy the struggle.
That's it.
Yeah, enjoy the struggle. I mean, you're not going to get a strap on your belt or another belt unless you perform to your best. Yeah. And what that does is creates a habit of you being your best. So enjoy the struggle. I mean, don't think that you're going to get in martial arts and it's going to be easy. Get in martial arts so you can develop yourself to be the best that you can be. And the best you can be is when you've learned how to give your best. And so always give your best. And when you're doing that, work really hard. That's the struggle, so you can advance. And never quit. Don't quit. I mean, how many students have you seen in your past, Mr. Fisher? And I've had hundreds of them come and tell me this. I was in your program years ago, and I went up to green belt, or went to blue belt, or went to brown belt, or red belt, and then I quit for whatever reason. And the next thing out of their mouth is, "I wish I would have never quit."
Every one of them.
No.
Every one of them.
No. It happens to me all the time, because I've been in this area. This will be 35 years in this November. And so I've been literally in this community, in this area for 35 years. Well, based on that, you know how many people we've taught? We've had several. Most of the time I've had at least 2 locations, sometimes 3. Thousands. So I have these people, they recognize me. What's interesting is they might have been 6 when they started, and they look like a 6-year-old. And now they're 30 with hair all over their face, and they come up to me and go, "You remember me?" And they go, "Did you look like that when you were 6?
Yeah. Because the thing is, we look the same, but they look completely different.
So, "I recognize you," they say. "Oh, well, yeah. You do." And then they would tell their story. Oh, I remember back when I took martial arts, took Taekwondo from you. Man, it was the greatest time. I really enjoyed it. It was great. You taught me this, you taught me that. I love the discipline I gained, the confidence. Man, if they didn't get their black belt, but I always heard that. That was the toughest part. When they didn't get their black belt, I heard that. And that was, we should have never quit. Okay. So my advice to a beginner student, enjoy the struggle. Enjoy it, man. I mean, have fun with that, because you're building a habit right now that's going to make great out of you. You're building a habit that's making you great. Okay. We're not going to get great by sitting around. We're going to get great by doing. And once that so enjoy the struggle and never quit.
And the thing is, everybody seems to think that the struggle's going to go away. After, what is this, almost 29 years of training, that struggle has never gone away. We just learned how to do it and how to remember what's important and what's good. And we just overcome that.
I completely agree with that. As I was younger, I would say I'm doing Taekwondo so I can stay young. I changed that a few years ago. I'm 62 years old. Now I continue to do Taekwondo so I won't get old. There's a difference.
There's a difference.
I'm not going to say that I'm going to stay young anymore at 62, but I'm not going to, but I refuse to get old. So the struggle changed a little bit. Well, really just the mentality of the struggle changed. It was still the struggle, but you're right. You're not supposed to lay around. We're not meant to just lay around. I have a friend, I have several friends that have retired, and they go, when do you retire? What do you think about retiring? I go, I'm enjoying myself. Yeah, but wouldn't you like to not do anything? I said, I have the ability to not do anything now. I have enough instructors. I have enough staff. I don't have to do anything now. But why would I want to not do anything? What enjoyment would that be? And so, and I think there's this mentality out there like, wow, one day you don't have to do something. Because if we're not focused, I don't believe in laziness, but I believe in being unfocused. Mm-hmm. And if I'm unfocused if I don't have goals, then anything can influence me, and that's not a good thing. If I have goals and I'm not moving towards them, that's just being me being unfocused. And some people say, well, you're lazy, you don't do anything. Well, as soon as I get focused with it, I'm doing something. So was it really laziness? No, it really wasn't. It was just me being unfocused. I can control me. Okay, so I want to have goals. Even when I may not have some Taekwondo schools, I always want to have goals. I don't understand why I wouldn't. And even if my goal is one day go to 5 different foreign countries this year, hey, that's a goal. Those are things. And if you go, well, he's just on vacation all the time. Yeah, but you know what? When I go on vacation, I go on a working vacation. I come home tireder than I left. Right. Yeah. And I've been to Korea a couple of times. They're just awesome. Man, you fly 13 and a half hours. I've done this a couple of times. We flew from Memphis to Chicago to Beijing when we went to China. And then with the long flights and the delays and stuff, you're up 24 hours. How enjoyable is that? Nobody wants to have 24 hours for no good reason, right? But I don't sleep well on planes. But then again, that's just, to me, I got through it. To me, I did that. And I was able to go, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that was part of the list. I'm going to put that on my list because I know I can. Right. So what about at 62 years old? Am I still able to break boards? Yeah. But it has nothing to do with my age. It has to do with my ability. See, I want to keep my ability up. I want to stay strong. I want to keep kicking. So I don't. So that you're right, man. The struggle never ends. You don't want it to end. Because what are you going to do? Sit in a chair and just sit around and reminisce? Nobody wants to hear those stories.
Not more than once.
And say, I'll see you in 6 months when you have different stories.
Yeah, right.
You better be doing something to have different stories. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you have another question? Did I answer that one?
You know what, sir? I think we've covered pretty much everything. I mean, this has been a great time. I think we're going to share this with our students, and I think this is phenomenal. Just being able to see things from a long-term position, right? Because a lot of our students seem to see things by, like, we're going to make it through next week, or 6 months. That's really long. Well, looking at it from 46 years down the road, it's a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's the perspective that we're looking for, and that's what we are trying to instill, that this is a lifetime activity, sport, lifestyle, as opposed to like playing baseball, which you can do that for 20 years if you're great at it.
If you're great at it, you can do martial arts your whole life. You can start when you're little, and you can do it when you're old. And there's no positions in the middle that you have to leave it for 20 years because you're too young to be on the softball team, and you're too old to be on the little league team. You're right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's important for people to learn and to understand that this is a lifetime activity. It's a lifetime lifestyle more than an activity.
Yeah.
And as opposed to like football, where, you can only play it for that long.
Yeah, it is.
Just a little while.
Short-lived. It surely is. Not only short-lived, but the whole season and the year is short-lived. And so you have some people who really work super hard to get in great shape. And then as soon as the season's over, they fall back and binge and they get out of shape. And then they come back and they try to work super hard to make the team again. And, the martial arts, it's not like that. It was, you become, it's not just what you do, it's what you become, because it's a year-on, consistent thing. I was talking to the students in my class yesterday, in the Zoom class. I said, guys, if I saw you in Piggly Wiggly and you're a green belt now, would you be a green belt when I saw you in Piggly Wiggly? You go, yeah. So, but you didn't have your belt on, you didn't have a uniform on, you're still a green belt. He said, yes, sir. I said, so no matter where you are, you're a green belt. So you don't have to walk into a Taekwondo studio to practice. You are that green belt everywhere you go. So you need to practice often, but you don't have to wait around till you're in a Taekwondo school or wait around till you're getting your uniform and get your belt tied correctly before you can practice. Be a green belt. Don't just be a green belt when you're in class. Be a green belt. Be a green belt everywhere you can until it's time for you to move up to that next belt. And then be the best you can at that one. But then again, that's what we want for all our students, to be the best they can. Or as we say in my book, live your potential. That's what I want for all my students to be. I want them all to live their potential. So that would be a great place for us to stop, sir. And let me tell you so. Mr. Fisher, Master Fisher, I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're a fine young man, and I know your community would not be as good as it is without you.
That is great to hear.
All right. All right. Have a great day.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right.